This evening, I would like to say a few things about the menorah, which is the symbol of the modern state of Israel, and it is also used as a symbol in many Jewish homes of adherence to Judaism. It has very ancient antecedents. However, today it is normally construed as a candlestick with 7 branches, 1 main pillar in the middle, and 3 branches on either side. The exact form of this vessel appears in the Bible, Exodus chapter 25, verses 31 through 40. I'll read it very carefully with the understanding that every time candlestick is used, that should obviously be understood differently. Candles were only known in the Middle East in about 400 AD. Before this time, this structure, these vessels, would have been feeding on olive oil. And olive oil, specifically for use with this vessel, would have been consecrated, very pure as well as ritually pure. I'll now read, according to the King James Version, Exodus 25, chapters 31 through 40. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold. Of beaten work shall the candlestick be made, his shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers shall be of the same. And 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it, 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. 3 bowls made like unto almonds, with a knop and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with a knop and a flower, so in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick. And in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds, with their knops and their flowers. And there shall be a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick. Their knops and their branches shall be of the same, and it shall be one beaten work of pure gold. And thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give their light over against it. And the tongs thereof, and the snuff dishes thereof, shall be of pure gold. Of a talent of pure gold shall he make it, with all these vessels. And look thou, make them after their pattern, which was showed thee in the mount. It is likely the gold used to construct this very complicated temple vessel would have been used from the gold taken from the Egyptians. It is also very interesting that this is a very specific thing used as a focus of the tabernacle. This is before the first temple was constructed. This would have been roughly contemporaneous with the ark. It's interesting that this menorah was associated with Moses. Today, of course, there are a variety of iterations of menorahs. This really isn't a menorah because it only has 2 candles, but it does have Moses, and it has the 10 Commandments here. There are a variety of interpretations as to how to understand this early menorah. Does it refer to the number of days in a week? Do the various parts perhaps refer to a tribal confederacy? Or does it have a deeper or perhaps an esoteric meaning? There's a lot of debate as to exactly what this vessel meant at the time. What's clear is that this first vessel vanished. Perhaps it was taken by the Babylonians. The menorah that is known after the destruction of the Second Temple, that is when the Romans sacked it in 70 AD, is depicted on the Arch of Titus. It is thought to be a contemporaneous example of the kind of menorah used in the temple. Perhaps there was one, perhaps there was more than one. Josephus records also that this menorah was taken by the Romans in a triumphal procession. It's clear that it was still in Rome when Rome was taken by the Vandals in 455. I'd like to discuss something that isn't a menorah, but that is an oil lamp. And as clear here, it has 7 separate areas for wicks. It's likely this would have been used in cultic environments, so that it may have been used in a Jewish home. It may have paid homage to the menorah in the temple, but of course the construction is quite unlike the menorah as described in Exodus. And that menorah probably would have been reconstructed by Herod in his second temple. This example dates perhaps from the 3rd to the 5th century AD. So this dates after the sack of the Second Temple. There are a variety of ways that the Christians interpreted the menorah. It has been suggested that it reflects the 7 classical planets in order: the Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. This is an interesting hypothesis, and many other Christian writers had a variety of other interpretations, such as could it have represented branches of human knowledge? There's another example of a common type of find all throughout Syro-Palestine, used in Jewish contexts, and that is a Jewish oil lamp. This example likely dates from the 2nd century AD, again after the destruction of the Second Temple. It has the Star of David, rather disguised but clear if you get your eye in, as well as a palm frond on the base. This is likely to avoid the prohibition, as outlined in the Talmud, against using a 7-lamp menorah outside of the temple. This is a very interesting observation, in that it seems as if the oral law, as it is embodied in the Talmud, has ancient precedents that are reflected in the archaeological record. There are depictions of the menorah used in the Second Temple, but these seem always to reflect something that was in Jerusalem and not something that was on the site. There's one other exception to the rule, and that's the Hanukkah menorah. This is associated with the holiday where 1 day of oil was made to last 8 days. Briefly, the Greek destruction and desecration of the temple meant that there was only 1 day of oil left to light the lamp. Through a miracle, this 1 day of oil lasted 8 days. And these Hanukkah menorahs have 8 separate spaces for now candles, with 1 helper candle. This again gets around the prohibition in the Talmud of having ritual vessels that are like the vessel, the main menorah in the temple, as would this lamp, and as would this lamp. It is very important when reconstructing cultic objects to have written evidence to compare it to. Otherwise, archaeologists would be left with an ever more complicated guessing game of what people believed and how they expressed those beliefs. Luckily for us, the Bible offers a clear example of what was used at a particular time and what was preserved for future generations to act as a template, even several thousand years later. Thank you very much.